The Arizona summer heat shimmered on the horizon, a molten haze that blurred the line between earth and sky. It was the kind of heat that clung to your skin like a living thing, oppressive, unyielding, relentless. Inside her air-conditioned office, Melissa Williams sat by the window, her hand gently caressing the soft curve of her belly. A faint flutter beneath her palm made her smile. "Good morning, little one," she whispered, her voice tender. At 6 months pregnant, Melissa's world had quietly shifted. Her tailored suits now gave way to loose dresses. Her desk, once a battlefield of tax reports and invoices, now shared space with ultrasound photos and baby name lists. A framed image sat beside her keyboard, the tiny form of her unborn daughter, legs kicking, arms stretching in perfect innocence. She remembered the night Greg cried when they first heard the baby's heartbeat. He had pressed his ear against her stomach, whispering, "That's our girl." With tears in his eyes, every evening since, he would talk to their child, promising a world of laughter, books, and morning pancakes. "Melissa," came a voice from the next cubicle. "How's the Lyman report?" Her boss, Michael, peeked over the divider, his tie already loosened in the morning heat. "I'm just doing the final check," Melissa replied, scanning the last figures. "Should be ready in 30 minutes. Michael smiled. "Always reliable. Don't overwork yourself, that little one needs you more than we do." She smiled faintly, though her mind was already elsewhere, on the dinner she had promised to attend that evening, dinner with her parents. To most, Robert and Charlotte Johnson were icons, real estate moguls of Phoenix's wealthy suburbs, often photographed at charity galas and exclusive golf events. They were the perfect couple, admired by neighbors and envied by competitors. But to Melissa, they were something else entirely: demanding, manipulative, and, above all, impossible to please. The call came just as she was wrapping up her report. Her phone buzzed with a familiar name, Mother. Melissa inhaled slowly before answering. "Hi, Mom. Dinner's been moved to 7. Charlotte's voice declared without preamble. "Vanessa's yoga class ran late." "But, Mom," Melissa said, glancing at her planner, "Greg and I already arranged our schedules for 6. "You've always been flexible," Charlotte interrupted briskly, "and Greg's probably too busy with his work anyway." There was no point arguing. There never was. Melissa forced a calm tone. "Fine. We'll come at 7. "Wonderful. Don't be late, dear." When the call ended, Melissa leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Her reflection in the computer screen looked tired, not from pregnancy, but from years of emotional fatigue. She was the responsible one, the peacemaker, the daughter who never rebelled. Meanwhile, Vanessa, her younger sister, had always been the adored one, impulsive, reckless, but eternally forgiven. Where Melissa had worked nights to pay for college, Vanessa had floated through life on charm and indulgence. Even after her failed marriage to a real estate heir, her parents had welcomed her back like a wounded princess. "Vanessa just needs understanding," Charlotte often said. "She's artistic, emotional, not as practical as you." Melissa would just nod, suppressing the familiar ache in her chest. That evening, she drove alone to the Johnson mansion, its white marble pillars glowing under the fading desert sun. Greg had texted minutes earlier. "Client meeting ran late. I'm so sorry, love. Be strong, I'll make it up to you tonight." Melissa smiled faintly, touching her belly. "It's okay, little one. Tonight, it's just us." Inside the mansion, laughter echoed, Vanessa's laugh, light and teasing. Melissa hesitated before stepping in. "Oh, Melissa," Charlotte greeted her, glass of Chardonnay in hand. "My, you've filled out." Melissa's polite smile barely masked the sting. "I'm 6 months pregnant, Mom." Vanessa, lounging across the sofa in silk pajamas, eyed her with amusement. "That outfit's so practical. You know maternity doesn't have to mean boring, right?" "I chose something comfortable," Melissa said, setting down her purse. Her father, Robert, walked in, tall, silver-haired, still carrying the commanding presence of a man used to closing multi-million-dollar deals. He handed her a sparkling water. "To the family accountant," he said warmly. "Quarter-end chaos," she replied. He chuckled. "You work too much. You should learn from Vanessa. Life's not all spreadsheets." "Right," Vanessa chimed in. Once the baby comes, you'll see. You can't balance both forever. Melissa's tone was calm, but her eyes were steady. I manage just fine. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by Charlotte's sudden enthusiasm. Let's all go to the Grand Canyon this weekend. Fresh air, family bonding, and a good distraction for Melissa. Perfect, Vanessa said instantly. I'll bring my drone. I can get the best shots for my social feed. I don't think Greg can come, Melissa started, but Robert waved it off. Greg works too much. You need to learn to relax without him. Melissa bid back a sigh. All right, she said finally. I'll go. Saturday dawned cloudless, mercilessly hot. Melissa stood by her window, holding Greg's handwritten note. If I finish early, I'll come get you. Be careful, and drink lots of water. Love you both. His steady handwriting comforted her. It's just one day, she whispered to her unborn child. One day, and we'll come home. The sleek SUV arrived right on time. Robert drove, Charlotte sat beside him, and Vanessa occupied the back seat, phone in one hand, smoothie in the other. Ready for adventure? Charlotte chirped. Melissa smiled faintly. As ready as I'll ever be. As the city faded behind them, the landscape turned barren, red cliffs, endless dust, the scent of dry sage in the wind. The conversation drifted from casual chatter to pointed remarks. Melissa, Vanessa said suddenly, did Greg ever finish remodeling that tiny apartment of yours? It's so modest. It's comfortable, Melissa said evenly. That's what matters. Some people settle too easily, Vanessa muttered under her breath. Robert laughed. That's your sister, always practical. Hours passed. The paved road gave way to gravel, the horizon stretching into nothingness. Dad? Melissa asked cautiously. We're off the main route. Relax, Robert replied. There's a scenic viewpoint ahead. Hardly anyone knows it. A bad feeling tightened in her chest. The SUV came to a stop amid a barren stretch of desert framed by distant mesas. Here we are, Robert said cheerfully. Let's stretch our legs. The air outside was scorching. Melissa shaded her eyes, the sun biting into her skin. Charlotte pointed toward a distant hill. If we climb up there, the view's breathtaking. Mom, that's far, Melissa said softly. It's over 100 degrees. I shouldn't. Vanessa scoffed. Oh please, you act like you're made of glass. Melissa swallowed her irritation. Fine, but I'm taking water. They started walking. Each step felt heavier than the last. By the time they reached halfway up, her legs ached and her heart pounded. Then Robert stopped suddenly. Forgot the camera in the car, he said lightly. I'll go back with you, Charlotte offered. No, you stay, Robert insisted. We'll be right back. Melissa sat on a rock, wiping sweat from her forehead as her parents walked downhill. Vanessa scrolled on her phone, tapping impatiently. Minutes stretched into 20. Vanessa, can you try calling them? Melissa asked. No signal. Vanessa yawned. I'm heading back. I need the bathroom. Wait, Vanessa, Melissa called, struggling to stand. But Vanessa didn't turn around. Moments later, the faint rumble of an engine echoed through the desert. Melissa's breath caught. She climbed higher, her heart pounding. Below, she saw the SUV, speeding away, a trail of dust swirling behind it. Wait, stop, she screamed, waving frantically. What are you doing? Her voice vanished in the wind. Then, from the passenger window, she saw Vanessa's face, eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. Enjoy your walk, she shouted. It's good exercise. The words cut through the burning air like knives. Melissa stood frozen, then crumpled to her knees. The SUV became a distant speck, then disappeared altogether. This can't be real, she whispered. They'll come back. They have to. But an hour passed. Then two. The sun climbed higher. Her water ran out. Her lips cracked. Fear began to creep in, sharp and consuming. Don't panic, she whispered to herself. You have to stay calm. Think of the baby. But the desert gave no mercy. The silence was vast, the heat unrelenting. By late afternoon, her strength was failing. She sank onto the sand, whispering prayers, clutching her belly as if to shield her child from the cruel world that had betrayed her. Then, a sound. Faint voices. She squinted toward the horizon. Two figures, hikers, were approaching. Help, she cried weakly, waving her arms. Please, help me. The couple, Adam and Jessica, sprinted toward her, alarm etched across their faces. Oh my God, Jessica gasped. You're pregnant, what happened? My family, Melissa sobbed. They left me here. Adam handed her water, his voice tight with anger. Unbelievable. People did this to you? He handed Jessica a satellite phone. Call the police. Now. He began filming the scene, documenting everything, the car tracks, the sun position, her condition. Whoever did this, he said grimly, will pay for it. Hours later, as the rescue helicopter lifted off, Melissa lay strapped to a stretcher, oxygen mask secured over her face. Her vision blurred with tears and exhaustion, but through it all, she clung to one thought: the baby's heartbeat. The fetus is stable, the paramedic assured her. You're both going to be fine. Melissa closed her eyes in relief. When the helicopter landed on the hospital rooftop, she saw him, Greg, running through the corridor, face pale, eyes wide with terror. Melissa, he shouted, reaching for her hand as tears finally broke free. She smiled faintly through the mask, whispering the only word she could manage. Home. The sound of beeping monitors filled the quiet hospital room. Greg's breath trembled as he stood at the side of the bed, clutching Melissa's cold, trembling hand. Her face was pale, lips cracked, skin reddened from hours under the scorching Arizona sun. He could barely recognize her. His vibrant wife now looked fragile, broken. Her eyelids fluttered open, eyes searching, confused. Greg, she whispered hoarsely. I'm here, he said quickly, leaning closer, his voice tight with emotion. Are you okay? You're safe now. Melissa tried to sit up, but her arms were weak. The baby, she murmured. Is the baby okay? The doctors are checking, Greg said, his throat closing. Just rest, honey, please. Dr. Nolan, a calm-faced woman in a white coat, stepped closer. Mrs. Williams, you have severe dehydration and heat exhaustion, but you're lucky. You and your baby are both alive. We'll start IV fluids and run full tests to make sure everything's stable. Greg exhaled sharply, pressing Melissa's hand to his forehead. Thank God, he whispered. I thought I lost you. Melissa managed a faint smile, tears slipping from the corners of her eyes. You almost did, she said softly. A few minutes later, two uniformed officers entered the room quietly. One of them, a woman with a kind but professional face, nodded at Greg and approached the bedside. Mrs. Williams, she said gently, I'm Officer Ramirez. This is Officer Green. We know you've just been through a lot, but if you're able, we'd like to ask a few questions. It won't take long. The doctor looked up from Melissa's IV. 10 minutes. No more, she warned. Melissa nodded weakly. It's fine. I want this reported. The officers exchanged glances and began. You were traveling with your parents and your sister, correct? Destination, Grand Canyon National Park? Yes, Melissa whispered. It was supposed to be a family trip. I thought maybe we were healing. But then, her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. They told me to get out, to take a picture. And then they drove away. Greg's jaw tightened, his knuckles whitening as he gripped the side of the bed. We have evidence, Officer Green said, holding up a tablet. A couple hiking nearby recorded the moment. You can hear their car engine, their voices, even your sister shouting. We've verified the license plate and issued an APB. Patrol units are already headed to their home. Melissa closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. Thank you, she said, tears slipping silently down her face. But before the conversation could continue, the hospital door swung open. A woman in a sharp blazer and heavy makeup burst in, microphone in hand. Carol Simons, Channel 12 News. Mrs. Williams, can you tell us? Get out, Greg roared, stepping in front of Melissa's bed. This is a hospital, not a circus. The officers immediately moved forward, escorting the reporter out as she protested about public interest. I'm sorry, Doctor, Nolan said, shaking her head. The story must have leaked. Someone probably caught the radio chatter. Melissa looked between them in disbelief. Leaked? Already? Officer Ramirez sighed. A pregnant woman abandoned in the desert by her family. That's a headline every station wants first. Your national news. Mrs. Williams. Outside, reporters were already gathering at the hospital entrance. News vans lined the street, cameras flashing as Greg stepped into the hallway to make a call. Jason, he said sharply when his friend answered. It's Greg. I need your help, now. Melissa's parents and sister left her in the desert. She's alive, but barely. I want to press charges, everything we can. Endangerment, assault, whatever applies. Yes? I'll send you the police report as soon as it's ready. He leaned against the wall, shoulders heavy with exhaustion, eyes burning with rage. Meanwhile, across town, at the Grand Johnson mansion, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Robert Johnson sat in his leather chair, nursing a glass of whiskey. His wife Charlotte flipped lazily through a fashion magazine while Vanessa scrolled on her phone, a smirk tugging at her lips. Any word from Melissa? Robert asked, pretending nonchalance. Not a thing, Charlotte replied. I assume Greg picked her up by now. She's probably giving him her usual dramatic speech about how we're monsters. Vanessa laughed. Please, there's no signal out there. She's probably having a meltdown right now. Serves her right for thinking she's better than us. Robert frowned. Maybe the joke went too far. Dad, Vanessa said, rolling her eyes. It was a prank. People do worse online all the time. She'll get over it. Charlotte smirked. Besides, it's not like she was in real danger. There are tourists everywhere. Someone would have found her. Robert sighed, almost convincing himself. Tough love, he muttered. Maybe she'll finally stop acting like a victim. Vanessa reached for the remote. Now can we please watch something that isn't about her? But as the TV flickered to life, their laughter died instantly. The local news anchor's serious face filled the screen. Breaking news. A pregnant woman has been rescued after being deliberately abandoned in the Arizona desert by her family. Charlotte froze. Robert's glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. Vanessa's smile vanished. Authorities have identified the victim as Melissa Williams. She was discovered by hikers earlier today and is now recovering in the hospital. Police are currently seeking 3 suspects in connection with the case: Robert, Charlotte, and Vanessa Johnson. Vanessa's scream cut through the room. They're showing her, she told the police. On the screen, drone footage showed Melissa being lifted from a rescue helicopter, wrapped in blankets, paramedics surrounding her. Then came the damning clip. Vanessa leaning out of the car window, shouting, "Enjoy the walk, Melissa, maybe it'll teach you something." Robert's hands shook uncontrollably. It was just a joke. Charlotte's face was ashen. They're twisting it. They're making us look like criminals. Because we are criminals, Vanessa cried. You two planned this. I just went along. Enough, Charlotte snapped. Don't you dare blame us for your behavior. But before anyone could speak again, the doorbell rang, sharp and relentless. Robert looked at his wife and daughter. Don't say a word, he muttered, heading for the door. When he opened it, 2 police officers stood waiting, red and blue lights flashing behind them. Robert Johnson? Yes, he said weakly. Your wife and daughter are here as well? They are. The officer's tone hardened. You're all under investigation for assault and abandonment. You'll need to come with us to the station. Before Robert could protest, Vanessa shouted from behind him. It wasn't my idea, it was theirs. Quiet, Charlotte hissed, her voice trembling. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering, filming the scene with their phones as the Johnsons were led to the police car. Cameras from the news van zoomed in. Charlotte covered her face. Robert hung his head. Vanessa, however, still looked stunned, muttering to herself, "It was just a joke. I didn't mean for this to happen." The car doors closed with a heavy thud. Sirens wailed. And for the first time, the Johnson mansion stood in silence, its windows reflecting the flashing lights of justice closing in.